So we're going to look here at two graphing situations where in both cases they ask you to find the intercepts and then to attempt to graph the line. And we'll watch how it goes as these unfold. Here's the first one. It's got those big numbers. 20x equals negative 25y plus 200. So we've got 20x equals negative 25y plus 200. I think I'd prefer to have the 200 by itself if this is going to work with intercepts. Let me get a look at whether or not it's going to work with intercepts. It's got an x, it's got a y, it's got a number that's not 0. It's going to work. Does 200 divide by 20? Turns out yes, it makes a 10. Does 200 divide by 25? Turns out yes, it makes an 8. You can do that with your calculator. I have no problem with that. These are going to be graphable. I'd like to have the 200 by itself, so I'm going to add 25y to both sides of this. Here we go, plus 25y and plus 25y. Now I'd like the alphabetical arrangement of these terms, so I'll put my 20x first plus my 25y second and have that equal 200, and that's what I'm trying to graph. Now they want me to find the intercepts, so let me let x equal 0, and later I'll let y equal 0. When I let x equal 0, that means I got 20. It's not 200, it's 20 times 0 plus 25, y equals 200. 0 plus 25y equals 200, and therefore adding 0 to 25y gets me 25y equals 200. And divide both sides by 25. Again, use your calculator if you need to. Do long division, whatever you need, but it's y equals a positive 8. So 0, 8. Nice. So that's going to go 0, 8 on my axes. I'm not going to move across due to the 0 for x. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 going upward because the y was positive. Very similar situation right here. I'm going to let y equal 0. I'm going to put in parentheses around a 0 for my y. Therefore 20x stays plus 25 times 0, not 250, equals 200. 20x plus 0 equals 200. 20x plus 0 is exactly the same as 20x. 0 is the only number that has that feature, but it's nice. Divide by 200. Divide my 200 by 20, I should say. So that I have plain old 1x, which is x equals 10. This is also an intercept. The x is said to be 10, and because it's an intercept, the other value is 0. So I have 0, 8, and now I need 10, 0. I can't reach it from here, so I'll take a walk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Get myself right in there. Those are the 2 points that I get for my intercepts, and now I get myself going here, so I can do the straight shot. Pretty good. And I can actually see if I extend it far enough, what's going to happen here. That line is going to go above the origin, downhill, and it's going to miss the quadrant down here. It's going to miss quadrant 3. And that's the graph for that one. You didn't have to isolate y here, though that would have been a possibility. You could get a slope kind of thing going on for slope intercept that we'll learn later. But those intercepts are achievable because the big 200 divides by a big 20 and a big 25. They become small enough to fit on my graph paper. Now we get to this one. I think that one said the same thing, find the intercepts if they exist, because they like to say that every time. And even here it says find the intercepts if they exist. You will not have both intercepts exist if you only have y, but we do have x and we do have y. Not going to be able to graph this using intercepts, because intercepts with an s at the end means there's more than one intercept. There are two distinct or different intercepts. Okay, let's get to work on this. See what happens. Let x equal 0. So 0 goes in for x, and that's equal to negative 4y. Sorry, negative 4y. We're going to divide both sides. We're not adding 4. Anyone still doing that's in bigger trouble than you should really be worried about at this point. We need to divide by not just 4. We divide by negative 4 so that we have the opposite of negative. We have 4 over 4, and we get y. If you're not sure what happens when you divide 0 by negative 4, your calculator will tell you that it turns out to be 0. Some people think it makes, something we can't do. We'll deal with that somewhat soon. But this tells me that y equals 0 when x equals 0. The top here said that x is 0. The y we just found is to be 0. So I would graph that thing. And here we have it at the origin. Okay, now I'm going to let y equal 0. I'm going to get x equals negative 4 times 0, not negative 40. X equals 0. We got 0, 0. The origin, I'll go graph that point. When I'm graphing that point, I'm actually graphing the same point that I already did. Both the x-intercept and the y-intercept are 0, 0, the origin. And that's why trying to do this with the intercepts with an S isn't going to work because there's only one point. You don't have another point to go with, so you can't just throw it wherever you want. You need something else to get this work going for you. That means we really don't have the option. This is a case where, because we don't have a number that's not equal to 0 as a constant, we're not going to be able to graph this using intercepts. No one could. So instead, we're going to have to isolate the y so that we can set up a t-chart. Now this is saying that x equals negative 4y, and that's okay. You could do the t-chart from there, but if you put in x as 0, 1, 2, it gets a little messy and hard to graph. However, if I make this 1x and I divide both sides by negative 4, that becomes plain old y, which is perfect, and this becomes negative 1 over 4 with an x. It's still 1/4, 1 over 4. The x is what has the fraction as its coefficient, and the coefficient is negative, so that's all what got me here. I'm just going to change the order in which I write it. Y equals negative 1/4 x. X and y. Jumping by 4s, my classic move would be to start at 0, then go to 4, then go to 8, and hope that it fits on my graph paper. And if it does, I'll have 3 points and be ready to graph it. So I'm going to go here, negative 1/4 times 0. So it's negative 1, and then make a fraction of negative 1 over 4, multiply by 0, whole thing becomes 0. Origin, we've seen that one twice already, so we knew about that. Y equals negative 1/4 times 4. It's 4 over 1. Do your work with a calculator or whatever other work you have. Negative 4 over 4 is going to be negative 1. So that's a 0.4 negative 1, also likely to fit on my graph paper. Now this gets a little tricky because I don't know if that 8's going to fit. We'll see when we get to the graph paper, but y equals negative 1/4 times 8. We'll see what that makes. Put the 8 over 1. Turns out it makes negative 2. It's negative 1 times 8. For negative 8, divide by 4 is 2, which is negative 2. Here's the problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, end of graph paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each direction is what this graph paper offers us. We could go off the paper, but it's like going off the grid or off the map. If that's all you got in Connect Math, you're not able to jump past where the grid goes in order to plot a point. And so when I go to try and put that 8 in, 1, 2, 3, well, I mean, I can get the 4, negative 1, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1, I got that all right. But I go for the 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then down 2. I would have a lineup, but it's off the grid. Meaning I got to go back and get something else to work for me. Instead of going with a positive 4, let me go with a negative 4. Y equals, and we have negative 1/4 times negative 4, and we see what that makes. Cancel the 4s to get the 1. Negative 1 times negative 1. Right here, let's see, we're going to get 1. That means we got negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 for my x, and up 1 for my y, and that actually makes 3 points. So this is just another demonstration of why sometimes you can't go with 0, 1, 2, or even 0, jump, jump. If your graph paper won't let you go there, you need to be able to jump backwards. The jumper is still 4. And this began with saying, hey, try and sketch the graph of this after I ask you for the intercepts. It's almost a trick question or a trap, because I've looked at other books and stuff like that when it says, use the intercepts to graph this line. It's impossible. So this is a better phrasing of the question. Find the intercepts if they exist, which they do. Each case it's going to be 0, 0, but that's not enough to just go ahead and get the graph done. After that, you begin a separate process to find out other points, or at least one other point besides the origin, to help yourself get this graph done. So that's what we got for these two.